You got the raise. Maybe it was 3%. Maybe it was 10. Maybe it was the biggest jump in your career so far, and for a few days you felt it, that quiet relief, that sense that things were finally moving in the right direction. Then the next month came, and somehow you still felt broke. Not broke like you can't eat, broke like you can't breathe, like no matter how much more comes in, something invisible keeps pulling it back out. And you start to wonder, is this just how it works? Is this just what life costs now? It isn't, but the reason you feel this way is not what you think. Your salary was never designed to make you rich. It was designed to keep you productive. That sounds like a conspiracy. It isn't. It's economics. And once you understand the system underneath your paycheck, you'll stop waiting for a raise to save you and start doing something completely different. Let's start with a number. In 1971, the average American worker's real wage, meaning their purchasing power, not just the dollar amount, began to stagnate. Economist Richard Wolff has documented this in extensive detail. Productivity kept rising, corporate profits kept rising, but wages, adjusted for inflation, barely moved for the next 50 years. The same pattern repeated across the UK, Canada, Australia. Workers got slightly more dollars every year, but those dollars bought slightly less every year. The gap between income and actual wealth quietly widened, and most people never noticed because the number on their paycheck kept going up. That's the first trap. The number goes up, the power behind the number doesn't. But there's a second trap, and this one is more personal. It has a name: lifestyle inflation. The moment your income increases, your standard of living tends to increase to match it. This isn't weakness. This isn't stupidity. It's almost biological. Behavioral economists like Daniel Kahneman have shown that human beings are extraordinarily good at adapting to new normals, meaning whatever you have becomes your baseline, and you immediately begin wanting the next level. A bigger apartment, a newer car, dinners that cost 3 times what you used to spend on groceries. These aren't luxuries anymore in your mind. They're just your life now. And so the raise disappears, not because you wasted it, but because you lived it. The result is what some economists call the hedonic treadmill, a phenomenon where increasing income produces only temporary increases in satisfaction before returning to baseline. You run faster. The treadmill speeds up. You never actually move forward. Here's the counterintuitive truth that almost no one in your life will tell you. The wealthy don't primarily earn money. They own things that earn money for them. Read that again. They own things that earn money for them. Consider Warren Buffett. His salary at Berkshire Hathaway, his actual paycheck, has been $100,000 a year for decades. That number hasn't changed since the 1980s. Meanwhile, his net worth crossed $100 billion. How? Not through income, through ownership, through assets that compounded quietly year after year while he showed up and drew the same modest salary. Buffett is an extreme example, but the principle scales all the way down. A person who earns $60,000 a year and puts 10% of that into assets that will over 30 years, accumulate far more real wealth than someone who earns $200,000 and spends $200,000. Income is the input. Assets are the output. Most people optimize for the input and neglect the output entirely. So what are these assets? In plain terms, things that produce income or appreciate in value without requiring your time. Index funds, real estate that generates rent. A business, intellectual property, ownership stakes in other people's productivity. The specific vehicle matters less than the concept. Your money must be working for you somewhere, or you are always only one job loss away from zero. This is not a secret among the wealthy. The Thomas Stanley and William Danko study, published as The Millionaire Next Door, analyzed the financial habits of over 1,000 American millionaires over 2 decades. Their finding was stark. The majority of millionaires were not high earners. They were ordinary income people, teachers, engineers, small business owners, who consistently spent less than they earned and systematically put the difference into appreciating assets. Their neighbors, often earning far more, looked richer, but they were not. They were consuming their income. The millionaires were converting theirs. Converting, that's the word. Your salary on its own is just a flow of water. Without a container, it flows through your hands and disappears. The container is your asset base. The goal is to build the container first and then let the flow fill it. Now let's talk about the system that actively works against this. There is an entire economy built on capturing your income before you can convert it into assets. Credit card companies that offer rewards in exchange for spending habits that carry balances at 22% interest. Subscription services engineered to be too small to cancel but too persistent to forget. Car financing that lets you drive something impressive while quietly taking the largest single monthly payment out of your account. Rent that absorbs 30 to 40% of your take-home, because housing markets in productive cities have outrun wages for 20 consecutive years. None of these things are illegal. Most of them are marketed as benefits. But their combined effect is to ensure that the distance between your income and your asset base stays exactly where it is or grows. The system isn't malicious. It's just aligned against you unless you are deliberate. So what does deliberate look like? It starts with a ratio, not a budget. Forget tracking every coffee. That's noise. The signal is this: what percentage of your income immediately goes to work for future you before present you can touch it? The most consistent wealth builders in every study treat this number as sacred. They call it paying yourself first. Economist George Clason named the principle almost a century ago in The Richest Man in Babylon, and it hasn't changed because human psychology hasn't changed. Before rent, before food, before anything, a fixed percentage, 10% at minimum, 20 if you can manage it, moves into assets the moment income arrives. Not what's left over, what comes first. The second shift is from income thinking to equity thinking. Instead of asking, how do I earn more? The question becomes, what can I own more of? This might mean contributing consistently to an index fund through an investment platform. It might mean building a skill into a small side income that you treat as a business. It might mean buying into a real estate investment vehicle instead of upgrading your apartment. The specific form matters less than the habit of asking the equity question every time your financial situation improves. And here's the thing about income that no one wants to say out loud. More of it genuinely helps. A higher salary is not worthless, but only if the gap between what you earn and what you spend widens, and that gap goes into something that grows. Without that, a raise is just a slightly nicer version of the same treadmill. The people who break out of this system are not the highest earners. They are not the luckiest. They are the ones who understood early enough that a salary is a tool, not a destination. They used it. They built with it. And over time, their assets began to earn more than their salaries ever could. You checked your bank account after your last raise, and for a moment, you felt like things were finally moving. They can be, but not because of the raise, because of what you do with it from the moment it arrives. The salary was never the ceiling. It was always just the starting point.